Welcome back to this new training session. In this training session, we are going to continue with the deep dive into the browser developer tools. We are going to learn how to use the console and also how to use the source code. So let's jump into the developer tools. This is the developer tool console. In here, it's possible to see messages that are triggered by the application or to try out some commands. Let's jump into our application and put there some statement that it's going to trigger a JavaScript error, so we can see how this is shown on the console. Let's just add a number to the name of the component. This is going to cause a JavaScript error because this component doesn't exist. This is something that occurs very often when we do a typo on the name of any component. If we press on the URL on the right upper corner of the message, the browser is going to navigate to the source code and show the statement that is incorrect. Also, it's possible to see the name of the component in the message. In the detail of the message, we can see the call stack. This is useful to analyze the flow because an issue can be occurring only on a specific flow. Let's jump into the application and correct the typo. Now let's try out the statements directly in the console. Let's do a statement to select the image DOM element. So let's type document.getElementById and put in the brackets the ID image, which is the component name. As you can see on the output, we have the source that contains the URL, and we also have the dimensions on the screen. Let's try to interact with this and change the dimensions. Let's put the information into a variable because it's easier to interact with. And let's try to change the width. If I say that the width is equal to null, it's going to remove the 100% that it's fitting the image to the screen size, and it's going to show the correct image size. So, as you can see, when I put null, it's going to stretch the image. Now let's try with 100%, and as you can see, it's shrinking the image. Another statement that is useful is the window. In there we can see all the functions and attributes that are available in this context. As you can see, we have here the app cache. It's also possible to clear the console. We just need to press this button. Now let's deep dive into the source tab. In this tab you can see the source code of the applications that were already open. It's possible to pretty print the code in order to facilitate the analysis by pressing the following button. It's also possible to set breakpoints on the code. For that, you just need to press the line number and the breakpoint is immediately set. As you can see, the application code is bigger than the one that you see on the app designer. This is due to the fact that some code is automatically generated by the designer. The following line contains the same code that was typed on the designer. If you do a quick comparison, as you can see, the code is the same. A very useful tool is the search. It's possible to type the sentence that we want to search. In this case, let's search for image. As you can see, we have 37 records. Sometimes you need to refine the sentence that we are searching. So let's just put the semicolon, and as you can see, only one record. Now we can set the breakpoint on the image. Let's just press the line number and voila. Now let's refresh the page. And as you can see, we are stopped on the breakpoint. On the right side, we can see the scope. So basically, on the local, we have the variables that are only available on this function. And in the globals, we have the variables and the functions that are available in any part of the application. Below that, we can see the call stack. In there, it's possible to see the previous steps where the application went through until reaching this point. Let's press F8 to go on with the code. On the top right side, we have some buttons. The button with a crossed arrow, it's the one that gives us the possibility to disable the breakpoint. Let's press it and refresh the page. Now, as you can see, the breakpoint wasn't triggered. Let's enable and remove the breakpoint. Let's go into our application and put there a breakpoint hard-coded. In this case, we need to type debugger. Let's activate the application and jump into the developer tools. Let's refresh, and as you can see, we are stopped on the debugger statement. Let's press F8 to go on. Let's disable the breakpoints and refresh. As you can see, now it didn't stop on the debugger. This means that the button works for both types of breakpoints. On the right side, we also have the breakpoints. This only shows the ones that are set on the browser. As you can see, the hard-coded ones are not displayed. Let's remove the hard-coded debugger. On the bottom of the screen is also possible to have access to the console. If the console is not displayed, you just need to press escape and this will trigger the console to appear. Now let's deep dive into the global listeners and the event listeners breakpoints. On the right side, you have the full list of listeners. For instance, let's expand the event listeners. Let's expand until we reach the keyboard and let's stick the keyboard down. Now, if we go into the application and we press a key on the keyboard, immediately the breakpoint is triggered. Let's jump out of this function, and as you can see, we have access to the information of which key was pressed. Let's go on, let's press F8, let's untick this event and let's search for the click. Let's click on the screen and as you can see we are stopped. Let's go on, let's remove the click and let's enable the double click. Once more, let's do a double click and as you can see we are stopped once more. Let's go to the function. We have the E containing the information. Let's type E on the console and as you can see we have the screen coordinates where we pressed. Now let's disable the double click and let's enable on mouse enter. Let's go into the application and as you can see this one it's not triggered. This is because we didn't specify which is the element where this event should be attached. We can do this on the console. So let's put document.get element by ID and let's pass the ID image. Let's just put a variable in the beginning because it's easier to work. Now let's do a.add event listener and between the brackets let's put mouse enter and we need to specify the function that it's going to be triggered. Let's use the one that I have previously typed, and let's put through on the last option. This is needed if you want to have nested event. Otherwise, only the first one is going to trigger the event listener. Now let's move the mouse into the application, and as you can see, we are stopped. And in the E, we have the information on the place where we entered on the screen. And as you can see, this can be very annoying. Now, as soon as we move into the image area, we are stopped once more. Let's go into the console and remove the event listener. For that, we just need to replace the add with remove. Let's do a test and enter, and it doesn't trigger the debugger anymore. If you want to use the remove event listener option, you need to have a declare function as we did with the hbox. Now let's try to create an anonymous function by just typing function and putting there the code. Let's navigate into the application, and as you can see, we are stopped. If we go to the we have exactly the same information, but now let's try to remove the function. Let's go into the application, and as you can see, we are stopped. The event remover didn't work because the function is anonymous and it doesn't know which function it's supposed to be removed. So to prevent this, you always should use a declared function. Now let's try to access a component. Let's grab the name of one component, let's say the button. Now let's pass it into the console and press enter, and as you can see, we are seeing the DOM information, not the component. Let's learn the way to get the component information. So let's type sap.ui.getCore. Let's put brackets dot get element by ID, and inside there let's put the button name. And now we have access to the component. Let's try to change something. Let's change the text, so let's put dot set text and let's type something different. And as you can see, the text on the button has changed. And with this, we conclude this training session. I'm looking forward to see you on the next one.